Welcome to my first class guide video for the Warlock. In this video we'll mostly go over my favorite class and subclass in early access called the Fiend Warlock. But worry not, most of these choices will also benefit the Great Old One subclass. To begin we have to create our character, of course. What's most important to note is that the Warlock use Charisma to cast their spells. They're not only great at casting spells, but perhaps also the best at casting their cantrips. Especially the one called Eldritch. The races with a bonus to Charisma are the Tieflings, the Drow, humans, half-elves and the Lightfoot halfling. If you really like to min-max and gain the most benefits, I would recommend picking the half-elf, as they receive a +2 bonus to Charisma and 2 times a +1 bonus to an ability of their choice. Or well, your choice. And they look really cool so. For your secondary stats, I will recommend picking Dexterity and Constitution, as they are the most important secondary stats. Dexterity will give you additional armor and Constitution will help with extra health. And with Constitution you have a higher chance to remain concentration on spells when you get damaged. So in total this gets your Charisma, Dexterity and Constitution to 16. This leaves you with 2 points left and you can choose to raise another ability to 10. If you can't choose, I recommend Wisdom for Wisdom saving throws and additional skills. For your background, I suggest picking the Noble or Guild Artisan background, as they give you proficiency to Persuasion, a charisma stat that Warlocks can pick normally. Choose Guild Artisan if you want a bonus in Insight and Noble for History. For your other skills that you can choose, I recommend picking the Charisma options, Deception and Intimidation. Now you have a +5 bonus to all your Charisma skills, with Performance as the only exception. For the subclass, we'll of course pick the Fiend option. The Fiend also receives a really cool bonus called Dark One's Blessing, which gives you temporary hit points equal to your Charisma modifier plus your Warlock level after killing an enemy. So that's 4 hit points in total for level 1. The Great Old One subclass doesn't have this ability, but they receive additional spells. But what's really neat about the Fiend Warlock is that they receive additional fire spells like Scorching Ray, which goes really well with Hex. And of course later at level 5 the oh so strong Fireball. The Great Old One doesn't have access to these fire spells, so that's why I like the Fiend Warlock more. For cantrips, we'll of course take Eldritch, as it is the best damaging cantrip for a Warlock. It deals 1d10 force damage and is one of the least resistance types in D&D. When you level up, you can choose additional benefits for this cantrip, for example your Charisma modifier as bonus damage or to yeet your enemies off of cliffs. For your other cantrip, I like to pick Friends, as it gives you advantage on charisma checks against a target. We already have such high charisma and getting advantage will really help out tremendously. But if you don't like this cantrip, you can also pick Minor Illusion or Mage Hand. For your spells, I really recommend picking Hex first. It costs a bonus action and targets you hit receive an additional 1d6 necrotic damage. After casting Hex with a bonus action, you can cast Eldritch Blast as an action right after. Once your target has died, you can freely reapply this spell as a bonus action without offering a spell slot to another target. You remain this ability as long as you remain concentration. Hex also gives your targets disadvantage on ability checks for one skill of your choosing. For your second spell, pick Armor of Agathis or Hellish Rebuke. Armor of Agathis will give you extra temporary hit points and deal damage to any creature that hits you with a melee attack. The higher the spell, how higher your hit points are and the more damage your target receives. If you want to be more offensive, then you can choose the Hellish Rebuke spell. This will give you a buff and the next time you take damage you sacrifice your reaction to deal 2d10 fire damage and half if the target saves his saving throw. When in combat, always choose to pick the high ground when possible, as you receive advantage on your attack rolls. This gives you a higher chance to hit your target and you remain safe distance from melee enemies. You will still have enough range to cast your Hex and Eldritch Blast. This is mostly what you will be doing for level 1. For level 2, you get the opportunity to really modify your Warlock. This is really cool and isn't something other classes receive that much. You can pick 2 Eldritch Invocations and there are 2 I highly suggest to pick. The first one is called Agonizing Blast. This boosts your Eldritch Blast damage determined by your Charisma modifier, which is +3 on every single hit. On level 4 this becomes +4. For your second Eldritch invocation, pick Repelling Blast. With this you can yeet your enemies off of cliffs and buildings or just blast them away from you. Baldur's Gate 3 has a lot of verticality built into the combat maps, so you will have a lot of fun with it. On level 2 you can also pick an additional spell. Again, I suggest picking Armor of Agathis or Hellish Rebuke, at least the one you didn't pick on level 1. You can also replace a spell, but for now we won't do that. We will do that in level 3. And once you reach level 3, things get really interesting. Your Warlock receives improved Warlock spell slots, which makes you cast all your spells at 2nd level, increasing their power. You also receive Pact of the Chain, gaining the ability to spawn a familiar of your choosing. What's really neat is that your Warlock also receives 2 additional creatures for this, beside the normal ones, called the Imp and the Quasit. The Imp is easily the most powerful as they are quite strong, can turn invisible and can fly. This makes the Warlock even more powerful, and in my opinion one of the strongest and most fun classes of the game right now. Next to that we also gain an additional spell with the new 2nd level spells available. I strongly suggest picking Misty Step here, as you can teleport to an unoccupied space in range that you can see. This spell has 60 feet range and only costs a bonus action, so as we said before, you can position yourself well in battle and still cast Eldritch Blast as an action from the high ground. This time we will use the replace spell option, replacing our Hellish Rebuke spell for either the Scorching Ray or Shadow spell, dealing 3d8 AoE thunder damage to creatures and objects, or half if they save their saving throw. But if you want to go full powerhouse on a single target, pick Scorching Ray here. Scorching Ray shoots 3 rays of fire that deal 2d6 damage for each ray that hits. But what's mostly strong about it is that each ray hit also triggers your hex damage, so that gives 1d6 necrotic bonus damage to each ray. For level 4, the current max level in early access, pick the ability score improvements option and pick Charisma twice. Your spells now have a higher chance to hit, and Eldritch Blast will now deal +4 additional damage. We can also pick another cantrip and spell. For the cantrip, I recommend picking either Mage Hand or Minor Illusion. For your spell, pick up Shatter if you picked Scorching Ray on level 3 or vice versa. And with that, I want to thank you all for watching and I hope this guide was helpful for you. My channel gained a lot of new subscribers lately and I'm very grateful for that. So thank you all again, have fun with the game and I'll see you next time.